Hello, everyone. We should do our jingle, Dean.
I'm Dean Jackson.
And I'm
He's Joe Polish, and this is the I Love Marketing podcast.
Yeah,
it was such a great anchor, and it was just long enough that the moment you get sick of it, it's done anyway.
Yeah, so for everyone that's listening and watching live, if we cared more, we would have had that jingle totally set up and prepped it for this.
Well, if we weren't ADHD, we would have had someone with executive function make a checklist note. So maybe we could do that. Whoever's in charge of that, let's bring back the theme tune for next time.
Okay, so Dean, now for everyone that's watching, I'm at the Genius Network headquarters in Tempe, Arizona. Dean is in Florida, sitting behind his Zoom screen at his house where it says horse for sale right behind him. And I'll have you explain what that even means a little bit later, Dean. And welcome to the I Love Marketing podcast. If you are new to this, go ahead and subscribe. I do want to suggest if anyone wants an amazing education in marketing, we've had people that have become millionaires that have never bought anything from me and Dean just from listening to the I Love Marketing podcast. Even Aaron here, who you've listened to so many of them. And how many of you got introduced to me or Dean through I Love Marketing? That was your first introduction, right? And so, thank you. And so what we started doing, me and Dean had a conversation back in, I think it's 2009, I believe. I don't even think it was 2010 yet. And we had this great conversation about marketing. And I remember saying to Dean, I go, imagine if other business owners actually heard what we had just talked about, how useful that would be. And that's where I said, let's start a podcast. And back then, I actually registered the website, ihatemarketing.com. Because there's a lot of people that they hate marketing because they've never figured out how to make it work. So I was like, if we could actually teach people how to love marketing, and why would you love anything? Well, because it's actually benefiting you in life. And if it's not benefiting you, or you feel like you're getting taken advantage of, you actually hate it. So I was like, let's use I hate marketing, and then people would come to that website and it would say, do you hate marketing because of this, this, and this? If so, let's teach you how to love marketing. But then I ended up buying ilovemarketing.com. Back then it cost me $3,000 to buy that website from somebody. And we ended up just doing it. And what I said to Dean though, I go, if you could, those of you that have been in business long enough, you can remember back in 2010, completely different world in marketing, okay? And I think Facebook, was finally going outside of colleges probably around, 2008 or something like that. And I had my first website in 1996. If you go to the Wayback Machine, you can see it's hysterical. It's a big piranha marketing fish and stuff. And so I said to Dean, I go, let's give away better stuff on I Love Marketing than what other people are charging for. And I said, let's not try to sell anything until people start complaining that I don't understand what you guys are doing. Why are you, teaching this? And so if you go back to the original comments back in 2010, we did, how many episodes did we do before we even started plugging anything? Do you remember?
I think it was March, right? End of March, before people started cluing in or saying, because what the comments we were getting was, this is better than stuff I've paid for, or whatever. That was early on, but then March it was, what are you up to here? Where's the beef? What are you going to pitch?
No, and people started complaining. They're like, I don't understand what you guys are doing. You're teaching us how to sell and market, but then you're not trying to sell us anything. And I go, that's exactly what we want, because once you do that, people trust you. And they're like, oh, you're trying to be helpful. So part of it is, how do you sell what it is you're selling? You actually demonstrate value. And if your selling is not about money, it's a philanthropy, or we got some amazing comedy writers in the back. And if your job is to make people laugh, invite them to the show, make them laugh, and you know what? They want to keep laughing, right? So whatever people are looking for, if people are looking for a feeling, and if you can make them feel good, they will keep coming to you. People love to be sold, they hate to be pressured. So if you can actually set up the selling in a way that does that, that is very valuable. And so me and Dean come from very similar backgrounds. Both of us learned a lot from Gary Halbert and Jay Abraham, and these people became our friends. And he was in real estate, I was in carpet cleaning. And I would say that if you have to figure out how to sell something nobody wants to buy with carpet cleaning, because has anyone ever been excited about your cat or your dog peeing on the carpet and then calling a carpet cleaner? Like, no one, right? So I had to figure out how to successfully sell something nobody wants to buy. And I used education-based marketing in order to do it. Before the internet existed, I used direct mail, I used consumer awareness guides, I used 24-hour free recorded messages, which I called ELF marketing. It's easy, lucrative, and fun. And I would say this over and over again. Everyone here has probably heard me say it. Selling is what you do when you're on the phone or face-to-face with somebody. Marketing is what you do to get someone on the phone or face-to-face with you, properly positioned, so by the time you're talking to them or they're talking to you or one of your team members, they're pre-interested, pre-motivated, pre-qualified, and predisposed to give you money. So marketing is selling in advance. It is literally positioning yourself so by the time people come across you, they actually know you. They have some level of respect and rapport with you, and there's a big difference between believability and credibility. How many of you consider what you sell, what you do, your expertise, you're very credible? Like you've done the work, you know your stuff. Okay, how many of you have ever seen people that are in similar categories than you that have no credibility at all, and many that are con artists that have made a lot of money? Yeah, so why is that? Because believability, unfortunately, is more important than credibility in some cases. That's why you see propaganda being so effective. If you can make people believe lies, they will still be taken in by, false prophets, by all kinds of shit. And so in a lot of ways, marketing is propaganda, but the intention behind it, right? So it's like, what is your intention behind it? And I've, on right here, sitting right here, I have this great interview with Robert Cialdini, who's the top influence, doctor expert in the world, wrote the book Influence. I had B.J. Fogg, the professor at Stanford who runs the Stanford Behavior Lab. He's one of the top professors on behavior, and habits. He wrote the book Tiny Habits, which the year it came out, it was chosen as the best business book of the year from Amazon. James Clear has learned from B.J. Fogg, who wrote Atomic Habits. Nir Eyal, who wrote Hooked and many other books, learned from B.J. Fogg. So I had B.J. Fogg, and then I had Chris Voss, who wrote Never Split the Difference. He's actually one of our Genius Network members. And I had the top negotiation expert, the top behavior expert, and the top influence guy in the world. And I did this interview, and one of the parts of that interview I really like is the ethical use of persuasion and influence and negotiation. How do you actually use these skills, but you don't take advantage of people? Because you're always going to make more money in the transformation business versus the transaction business. So that being said, Dean, what I'd like to do is I'd like you to frame offers, and let's walk everyone through how to create call it an irresistible offer, a powerful offer, because only the hungriest fish snap at the crappiest bait, which is what Gary Halbert would say. So if you are not attracting in the type of clients you want, what is the bait that you're using in the fishing, and how are you positioning yourself in advance? So let's talk about all that.
Yeah, exactly. That's almost like I'm excited about starting back up here because it feels like we've had enough of a break that we're like a whole new generation of people coming into the whole I Love Marketing world. And we laid so much foundation in the first 100 episodes of I Love Marketing. There's so much depth to it. But starting now, if you're kind of introducing the concepts of marketing, the number one thing that we're trying to do is trying to connect with people who need a product or service that you offer that's going to provide some kind of a transformation or some kind of a result for somebody. That's why we're doing anything. It's not just about buying stuff or selling stuff, and there's no magic to there's no magic words that are going to make somebody buy and be happy about something that isn't going to get a result. You can trick people into thinking that this is going to be the thing that gets the result that you're looking for. But the very best thing that you can do is actually have a product or service that creates a great win for your prospects, the people that you're trying to serve. And the number one thing that can improve your marketing is having an offer that they will be confident is going to get the result that they want. That's why I always start with, when you think about something, our come from for crafting something is, we don't start with what are the words or what are the postcard or what are the headline that we do. We start with the core of the what would be a dream come true for your client. What would be a dream come true for the hero target that you're trying to attract? And when you start with that, if you can solve that problem, you can give them the benefit that the outcome that they're going to get, the more confidence you have in that, your ability to deliver that result, the more compelling offer that you're going to be able to make. I would say to people, listen, if you can start your thinking about this with a guidance question of what would you do if you only got paid if your client gets a result? Start with what are you capable of delivering, right? What do you have proof that you can actually do? And there's a difference between having a proposition where you're saying, let me show you how to do something that you haven't done yet. And maybe you'll get a result, maybe you won't. And something that you have proven and you've been demonstrably able to get a result for people repeatedly. And you have the confidence to know that they are going to get the result that you're promising. That's the best thing that you could focus on to start your marketing journey, right? Is always start with, you're really looking to match outcomes with the people who have the biggest need for that outcome or would benefit from it the most. It's so funny. One of the ways that I think about this, Joe, is I have been doing a lot of thinking about how people are approaching, especially in B2B situations, that I imagine them going to the purchasing department of a company and they're trying to pitch them and get a purchase order to hopefully deliver a future result through a product or service that will be delivered later. They're trying to get people, you have to convince them enough to give you the money in advance to get the result that they're looking for. And you're in line with everybody else who's trying to get that same money from that group. And there's usually only one or two people in a company that are authorized to make those purchase order decisions. But if you think about it, and if you go around to the back and you approach a company from the receiving dock, you're met with open arms. There's no friction. There's no delay at the receiving dock. Every company, metaphorically, every person in it is 100% authorized to bring money into the business. And when you can focus and position what you're doing for people as a delivery of a greater outcome than what they're paying for, it's that's the greatest place to come from. Do you remember how Gary Halbert used to always talk about that there's no bad way to convey good news, really? Right. Like if you think about it, you go in, it's not about the special words that you're saying. Like if somebody's having a baby and they're in a meeting, an important meeting, and you walk in and you have to interrupt the meeting and convey the news that your wife's at the hospital and just had the baby, congratulations. There's no bad way to say that, right? So when you convey a message that I always laugh, like if you take it to the far end, if you can get to where you have the confidence in what you're conveying to people that they receive your call as if you're driving the Publishers Clearinghouse prize patrol van and you're pulling up outside their office or their house to unload all the prizes that they've just won. That's the level of confidence that and enthusiasm that translates. And that's really what helps marketing the very most, is having a great offer for people. And that's timeless.
Well, let me ask you then, because I want to get your definition of marketing. I'll give my definition first. There's many definitions, because out of all the many people I've interviewed over the years and people we've interviewed on I Love Marketing, we've asked a lot of people to define marketing. Like, what is it? And there's all kinds of ways. I'd like you today to also give your definition of brand, because I think, because we did a whole episode years ago called Branding Equals Bullshit, because so much, you can't deposit name recognition in the bank. You can only deposit money or Bitcoin or whatever. Not even.
Yeah, that's it.
And so, but you have a great way of looking at branding. But marketing is the quickest path to the sale. And sometimes you don't, if you don't add multiple steps, the marketing won't work. So a lot of times people will leave something out that is critical in order to make it work. So there's a thing called patience, which some people don't have. And that does not mean the same as losing money, even though sometimes you could go negative. And then anything you put in front of somebody is marketing. So if you put a lousy offer in front of somebody, they may not respond. If you put a great offer in front of the wrong list, based on what Brian was saying earlier, the quality of the message, the list. And then Gary Halbert, we used to talk about all the time, 3 things you need in order to sell something. You need a product or service, you need a sales pitch or a marketing message, and then you need a delivery system. And what I found when I was first a carpet cleaner is, like, I got a carpet cleaning business, how do I tell people about it? I didn't know there was this thing in the middle of, like, well, what is the pitch? What is the message? Is it compelling? And Dean Jackson has this amazing line worth writing down. This is his line, not mine. He says, a compelling offer is 10 times more powerful than a convincing argument. So what is the compelling offer? So marketing is anything that you put in front of somebody. The question is, what are you putting in front of them? Is it a book? Is it a podcast? Is it a webinar? Is it, is it SEO? Is it a direct mail piece? Are you on ChatGPT and people are looking for, a house cleaner and, whatever? What is it? And so how would you, that's my thoughts of marketing. And the point is, there's not just one definition. There's many different ways to think about it, but those are some of the ways I think about it. So how about you? And then
I am total agreement with your definition of marketing. And I think that often people get that confused. You mentioned brand, that people often get that confused and they think that brand is marketing. And for years, I'd never heard a definition, anybody be able to define what a brand is, or you say you got to get your brand or establish your brand. And it wasn't until I saw Ray Dalio has a great video on YouTube about how the economy works, and it was very interesting to me because he talked about defining the entire economy is based on microtransactions between one person and another person, where they're buying or selling, exchanging money for goods and services. So when they talk about the size of a market for something, they're talking about just the aggregate of all of those microtransactions. So if they talk about the auto market, that's just an aggregate number of all the individual microtransactions of one person selling one car to another person. And I thought that unlocked something for me, because we often, when we think about branding, we think about the scope of things, because the examples that we point to as the most valuable or powerful brands are brands like Coca-Cola, which is widely regarded as the most powerful brand, or Budweiser as a beer as the most powerful brand. And what I realized from thinking about what Ray Dalio was talking about is that for most of us who have regional or local or even micro local businesses, it's not about creating this big reach or scope of brand. It's what's really important is that the brand is established in the individual minds that matter. And so when I look at that, I started thinking about, well, what is it that we're actually trying to establish? So I came up with an acronym for brand, which is that we're trying to establish a buying reflex affecting now decisions. That's what we're trying to establish. The only time a brand has a proven value, the only utility value of a brand is that in the moment where they need to make a decision about that particular good or service, their reflex is your brand. And to give you an example of that, if you say, that's why if people walk into a restaurant or they walk into a bar and they say, what we have, and they say, I'll have a Bud, that's the most, that's the brand, the reflex that people have, that they've established in the minds of more people than any other brand. But if we were to go to Poughkeepsie, and we were to go to a microbrewery in Poughkeepsie, and they've got a Poughkeepsie Pale Ale, that in the minds of people around Poughkeepsie, they may have established a buying reflex of, what would you like? I'll have a Poughkeepsie Pale. That's the just as valuable, more valuable in that moment, in that individual mind, than all of the money and all of the stuff that Budweiser has spent to get that brand broadly established. What's most important is we need to get that buying reflex established in the people that are most important to us. We want to do it in the minds of your exact target audience.
Yep. So does that make sense? So Dean, how does one then come up with the most effective, call it brand, USP, offer? I mean, how does one bring the concept into what should we say, how should we say it as business owners when it comes to creating a compelling offer? And first, can you do a quick flyover of what we've been teaching in I Love Marketing for years, which is before, during, and after? Share that, because I think it'll make sense for people to think of that they break their business up into units, and then maybe do an overview of the 8 profit activators, which, by the way, everything I'm talking about, you can download a report. It doesn't sell a course. It doesn't sell anything. It's just educational. You can go to ilovemarketing.com and download it. I know many of you here in the room have already read it. It is called Breakthrough DNA, and you can download it on ilovemarketing.com. And this describes what I'm asking Dean to kind of share right now. And this will give some context to what you said with brand and then offers.
Yeah, so in on a top level, what we're talking about with your business, the first thing that we do is we take your business. This is every business, by the way. This is universally applicable to all businesses. That's why we call it breakthrough DNA. We look at these as the stem cells in every business that manifest differently in a chiropractic office than they do in a plumbing business or whatever your business is. But the concepts and the 8 profit activators are universally applicable. So at the top level, the first thing we do is we divide your business into 3 individual units. And we call it the before unit, the during unit, and the after unit. And the during unit is what we're all most familiar with. That's the part of your business that helps people get the actual result that you're delivering for them. So from the moment they say, yes, I'd like to work with you, I'd like you to come over and clean my carpets, that is the during unit starts. You go and you do the work, and you have a relationship with them. You give them the invoice. They pay the invoice. That's the transactional element of your business. Now, the after unit is nurturing lifetime relationships and orchestrating referrals with all the people that you've already done business with, so that they continue to do business with you, or they will introduce other people who want to do business with you. And we treat that as a separate business. Most of the time, the biggest problem that I see with most businesses, they're just so full steam ahead on just trying to keep the during unit going that they ignore people. Well, they already have their carpets cleaned. I don't need to keep in touch with them. I'm looking for new people. We're constantly going forward. Then in the before unit, the best way to think about it is that we treat it like a separate business that is a supplier to the during unit. And as a supplier, I mean, what they're supplying is people who want to get their carpets cleaned, or people who want to sell their house, or people who need chiropractic care. Whatever it is, the before unit, the job is to go and find all the people that could potentially use your service, let them know, identify who they are, educate and motivate them, and make offers that are going to get them into doing business with you. So that's the before unit, is where there's the forward driving leverage. This is where we can really look to scale your business. If you can figure out how to create an engine that delivers people to your during unit at velocity and at the scope of what you want, that's really the best thing. Metaphor we use is to create a prospect vending machine. And the prospect vending machine is very predictable in that you know exactly what you're going to get, and you put in the money and you push the button, and out comes exactly what that is. Whatever product you put in position 1A in the vending machine. And so part of the mechanics of it is figuring out what's the best client or best prospect for your best effort, for the thing that you can do in the during unit. Who's going to be the best, most likely person to become a new customer, and then focus all of your effort on identifying those people.
Yep.
It's really, yeah.
Can I say this, Dean? Because I think this is, we've had lots of episodes where we talked about this, but I think it's worth inserting this in here. So Dean does a podcast with Dan Sullivan. I'm the one that got Dan into the podcast game. Back in 2012, we started 10X Talk. And look how big this whole 10X thing has become, right? So what I like is the question, who do you want to be a hero to? Which is Dan's question, right? And so if you sit and think about what Dean said earlier, what would be a dream come true for your hero market? Well, that also is predicated on, do you have a market you want to be a hero to? Because imagine trying to come up with a dream come true experience for a group of people you don't even like. How much enthusiasm and energy would you put into your business if your clients weren't aligned with you, or you were selling something you weren't aligned with? So we can teach, like, we have been through this weird sort of process. I mean, everyone that's a marketer, Brian Kurtz, who's sitting in the back, everybody, where you have lost enthusiasm or steam for something because for whatever reason, you don't wake up every day wanting to be a hero to someone. And there are people that become clients, or they come to us and they will even say things, like, how do we make this marketing work? My clients are a pain in the ass, or my clients suck. And it's just like, well, even if you give the best marketing strategy in the world to someone that hates their business, hates their clients, hates their life, how much of themselves are they really going to figure out and put into making this thing work? And in the marketing world, it's called testing. In the real world, it's called failure. And if you don't have the ability to have the stamina in the beginning to test what works and what doesn't, if you don't want to be a hero to your clients, or you don't really find where you're putting your time, attention, money, effort, and energy towards a group or a product or a service or an experience that is meaningful, you will figure out how to screw it up. You will figure out how to hate marketing, when in reality, maybe the marketing was really great. You just are directing it at the wrong person, right? Mm-hmm. Because how many of you ever have gotten a date with someone who turned out to be a nightmare? Yeah. And believe me, for every relationship you've been in where that you've had a breakup and your heart was broken and you went to a workshop in order to get over them, there's a good chance that they are going to a workshop to get over you. And so people cause pain to each other, and they have to figure out how to deal with the pain that they cause each other, the grief, the break. So the point is, use pickup lines on people that really you want to date and that they want to date you. There has to be a right fit thought about in advance before you deploy the most effective marketing. So explain horse for sale.
That's exactly it. When you get so crystal clear on what the benefit is that you're offering, if it's great and people want it, this is one thing I always say, that sometimes the best way to sell a horse is with a sign that says horse for sale. That you don't need to overcomplicate it. If you've got something, you talked about the book we did with Homer, Stop Your Divorce. It's crystal clear. I love marketing. You're in the right place. We're gathering people who it does what it says on the tin. It's exactly what we're looking for. This was a gift from Nick Nanton, by the way, Jackson Nanton Livestock. I did his podcast and we were talking about this concept and they sent me that sign, horse for sale. But that's why I always try and get sometimes the simplest marketing is the very best thing that you can do. Right? If you're crystal clear.
Yeah, I was going to say, Dean, it's like if you remember like old school classified ads, right? Where they would have one word things like herpes, corns, warts, gonorrhea, I know this sounds absolutely terrible, but it's like, these one word things that happen to do with these medical condition, hemorrhoids, what I mean? It's like, you don't need a headline, you kind of just need to say what it is. And so why do you think people overcomplicate things?
I think because they try and be marketers, they're trying to use marketing and language to puff up what they're doing, and it hides the substance of what it is. Like, that's why I say, if you really have something that's amazing and you can convey what you have as simply as possible, and it's something that people want, that's compelling. They're going to be compelled to take action because we always move towards what we actually want. And if you have to try and convince somebody to want what you have, or to try and convince them to move away from what they really want, even if it's the best thing for them, that's a really interesting thing, that sometimes if you just think like a chess master and you start a conversation with the conversation that they want to have or what they're really interested in, then you have the opportunity to move them to an adjacent conversation, an adjacent idea, but you're joining in on something that they already want, what they think is the answer.
So how do we best then engage wants? People don't do things, that whole thing, find a need and fill it. I mean, it's more like find a want and fill it, because there's a lot of things people need to do, but they don't do it. They do what they want.
Well, I think if you attach so one of the greatest things that one of the great, archival, case studies or whatever that we had is I was working with a party rental company, and they were, a party rental company is not a sexy thing, but I asked them. It could be.
It depends on the party.
Yeah, I mean, exactly what kind of party you having, right? So I asked them, because I always start this, what would be a dream come true? It's almost like the Dan Sullivan, what's your largest check client? Like if I said, because we're starting something new, and this is a great little footnote for you, that when we're starting a before unit, you're not at all limited to what you've already done. You're trying to get new people, so you can focus on whatever you want. But I asked them, what would be the best thing? If we could get anybody, what would be your dream client? And they said, if we could get an outdoor wedding, that's like the jackpot, because you get the tents and the generators and tables and linens and lighting and all of it, right? And I said, okay, but if you think about it, that means that if we trace that all the way back to where it's happening, that means that we need to get in front of people who are getting married and planning an outdoor wedding. But nobody is associating that with their wedding plans. Nobody's putting a picture of a generator in their hope chest saying, when we get married, I hope we get to use this generator to power the lights for our outdoor wedding. It's not sexy at all. And it's much further down the path to where they're going to make the party rental decision. But that doesn't mean that we can't go all the way up to the front of the line. Where does somebody first become a candidate for being an ideal client for us? And that would be at the moment that they decide they're getting married. They're engaged, and what the natural progression of timeline is that they get engaged, and then when they start planning the wedding, the first two decisions are when and where. We got to pick the venue and pick the date, get it on the calendar, and then the rest of all the plans fall into place. And somewhere way down the line, we got to pick a party rental company for all of these stuff, or our wedding planner has to have a relationship with them. And so rather than advertise the party rental company and say in business, established 1963, serving Toronto for all of these years, it doesn't matter. That's trying to convince people to choose your party rental company. Let's completely put their needs aside. And we created a directory of 100 great places to have an outdoor wedding in Toronto. And we would advertise that without any mention of a party rental company. Without that, we're building a list of ideal clients that now we were able to turn their marketing expense into a profit center by allowing venues to be featured venues and to introduce a limo company and florists and all the other people who are also trying to reach people who are having an outdoor wedding. Now, but we did it in a way that was compelling to the brides, right?
Yeah, and so what I wanted to interject here is imagine how much more enjoyable that is when you have come up with a way to compel people instead of convince. I mean, I think when we are trying to convince people that we are good or what we have will help them, it's really psychologically draining after a while. If
Oh,
you
look
spend
at I was looking. I was looking at the comments. We got a guy, James Carroll, Franklin Party, U.S. Are you a party rental company, James? That's awesome. That's what a perfect thing. We're telling this real esoteric thing. We've actually got a party rental company doing it. So I think that's awesome.
Free cocaine, party rentals. No. I was a cocaine addict. That is not an endorsement of drugs. Just so you know. So let's open it up for questions then, because I want to make sure that everyone has clarity on what we're talking about and that it applies to them, so that when we are done today, they have now gotten more capabilities in their mind on how to think about and position their businesses, who they're targeting their offers for. We'll give first dibs to people that are here in the room at the Genius Network headquarters, then we can go to some of the people that are online.
Teach us how to be a hero to our ideal client. What does that mean, be a hero?
Well, everybody loves, to be. That's why I say, imagine if you were the driver of the Publishers Clearinghouse Prize Patrol van, and your job was to go up and knock on strangers' doors and tell them they've won $1 million. Would anybody have any call reluctance for that? You wouldn't be afraid of being rejected. You would actually welcome it, because you're going to all laugh about it in the end. That you've got to feel that what you're doing is truly being a hero to the person that you're trying to serve, without being like really, leaning into to Joe, that his book, What's in It for Them, is really the core of all of it. Is if you really think about, how can I position myself as a hero to the person that I'm trying to serve, so they don't view me as a pest, as someone who's trying to take from them. It's like, we want people to feel like the greatest day in my business life was the day I met Joe Polish, or the day I met Dean Jackson. That you see so clearly that that's the future that you can provide for people. That's the thing. That's really what it comes down to. Is the best marketing that you can do is invest in your ability to actually get an outcome for people.
Thank you.
That they love. It'd be a dream come true. That's why I always say I always start with those words. Dream come true is a great thing,
This is the happy client experience. Every single one of you has an expectation, even of this day. If you came here, if you articulated it early on when we did the exercise of what would winning look like, what would that be? How many people are on the planet right now? 7, 8 billion, I have no idea. Every single person has expectations. They wake up every day. Even if they're homeless, even if they're the wealthiest person in the world, everyone has expectations. If you go to a restaurant, the largest restaurant in the world is what? McDonald's, yeah. Now, have any of you eaten healthier food than McDonald's? Now, if you go to another country, though, you know that no matter how unhealthy it is, if you get a McDonald's in Brazil, or if you get McDonald's in Australia, or McDonald's in Los Angeles, or whatever, it's pretty much kind of the same stuff, right? So there's certain things that people attach, but when it comes to creating, and I don't know if it's a hero experience, it could just be delivering the result that they want. So there's 3 types of experiences that people could have. They could be unhappy, where they have a frown on their face. They could be satisfied. They didn't get more, they didn't get less. They kind of got what they expected. Like if you go to McDonald's, which you should never do because it's really unhealthy, and you order a Big Mac and fries, and some kid gives you, and doesn't even say thank you, you're not going to be like, what the hell? You're at McDonald's. I mean, however, if you go to the Four Seasons and you order something and they don't even acknowledge you, you have a different level of expectation at the Four Seasons, because if you're going to pay $472 for a hamburger, you're hoping that they're going to at least it's going to be a different thing. So in order to create a world-class experience, so if someone's unhappy, they got less than what they expected. If someone is satisfied, they got kind of exactly what they expected, no more, no less. And if they are happy, they got more than what they expected. And there is no loyalty really in business. There's some to a degree, and there are people that are loyal. Like for instance, Harley Davidson was one of the first brands that people would actually tattoo the name of the company on their bodies. I mean, that's pretty good loyalty, right? Where you brand the name. We've only had one person tattoo Genius Network on their body. However, I want more. So.
I hope they're still a member.
No, but I think they're still a member permanently. So, but I actually been in touch with the person. She was just texting me the other day. That's a funny story. But so if you want loyalty though, so if someone is loyal to the brand like Harley Davidson and they get a Harley from North Scottsdale and the people over there don't treat them really well, they're going to go buy a Harley from Chandler. So who are they? Are they loyal to the brand? Are they loyal to the person? So the best way to create a hero experience is do your best to make sure that every experience people get more than what they expect, because that's the closest you're going to get to loyalty. So, just look at what is the experience that people are having. And one of the best ways, I think, to position yourself is if you can deliver a better experience than what someone else is getting somewhere else. I mean, how many of you have your favorite restaurant or restaurants? Well, there's a million restaurants probably where you can go to. Why do you go to those ones? Because for whatever reason, most of the time you leave there with a smile on your face. You either really like the service, you really like the food, you have a relationship. It's like the Cheers commercial. You want to go to a place where everybody knows your name and they're always glad you came. And if you can instill that feeling with your clients, they will not only do business with you, they will refer you to other people. So that's just something I wanted to throw in there with that. Jade, yeah, and go ahead, and then we'll do a couple online. And then, we'll go Jade, and then we'll go to Mario.
Can you elaborate on this, though, for the marketing that's before? Because this seems like the during part, like let's make them happy once we've got them in the door. How do we market the hero? Can you do maybe a hot seat from someone?
Well, what I would say on this, like in my carpet cleaning business, my very first marketing tool that worked was the Consumer Guide to Carpet Cleaning. That's where I paid a copywriter. I got this idea, like it says on the wall here from Gary Halbert, any problem in the world can be solved with the right sales letter. So the very first sales letter I ever had, which was in 1992, man, I've been doing this shit for a long time. So
I know, yeah.
Yeah, 33 years ago, I paid a copywriter when I was broke. I was living on credit cards, and I paid a copywriter $1,800 to write my very first sales letter. So I spent a month teaching this guy about different types of carpet cleaning, pH levels of carpet cleaning, what equipment cleans best, how to hire a professional carpet cleaner if they're certified, and all these things on how to select the proper carpet cleaner. And then what ended up happening was I created that Consumer Guide to Carpet Cleaning that I've talked about a lot, but I wanted to make my advertising valuable so that even if they never did business with me, I actually taught them in my marketing how to choose a carpet cleaner. And because I was the one that was teaching them how to make that decision, they were having a great experience before they ever gave me money. So for instance, let's take I Love Marketing. How many of you, again, I said it in the beginning, how many of you heard about or learned about me or Dean through our podcast, I Love Marketing? There you go. So there are people here there are several people here that have paid me, just from the group here, several $100,000 just from the hands that were raised. So that's the whole point. Make your advertising and your marketing so useful that people just want to be like, if they're giving me this for free, what would happen if I actually gave them money? I'll tell you, if you look at your marketing as an investment too, see, because sometimes you will put a lot of money up front and you won't get that return, but it's like it is harvesting, it is nurturing, and most people don't have the patience or even the awareness to see that you are, if you stay, like I cannot tell you how many people have joined Genius Network 8-10 years after we first started communicating with them, because we're just continually trying to add value. And finally, some people are like, holy shit, I didn't think about this. And we have so many testimonials from people that are like, I wish I would have done this a lot sooner. But that's just, people do things at their timeline. They do things, but we also have to do our best to compel people. So let's go to Mario, and then we'll come to Will over here. Or no, we'll go to Mario, then Dr. Saida, and Haley online, and then we'll whoever had the catch box. Go ahead.
Hey, Dean, love the example of the horse for sale. It gave me an idea for books for sale.
Perfect.
Thanks. How extensively do you split test? Like, let's try this one, then the next one, and obviously it's probably got to work to an extent, but how long do you A/B split test and refine it and try different variations and take it beyond the initial?
I was just talking about this with somebody today, that I'm doing clinical trials for a pharmaceutical product. I take stages, right? So the first thing when I'm doing a lead generator is I only allocate $100 to the test initially. We do a 100-hour, $100 test, $25 a day for 4 days. And we are looking to find winners and losers. That's all we're looking for, is we're going to put them in that cap. So we have a threshold, what we're looking for, a target that we're looking for as a lead cost. So in most cases, our minimum that we would look for is that to get 10 leads for $100. If we get 20, that's a home run. We can do a lot of work with that. If we get 5, that maybe there's something we could tweak to get it there. But if we don't get 5 leads for something, it's a dud. Let's move on. It's not going to get better over time, right? And then once something passes that first clinical trial, we move to the next level, which is to see, can we maintain that level and get 100 leads? And if that's the case, then we take those 100 leads for 100 days and see how much we can do conversion-wise. So we're only progressively moving the winners onto the next phase.
Thanks.
So I'm not testing like a bunch of different things. I will always look for, I want to put my best foot forward first. I want to think about the best thing. I'm trying to do that thinking ahead of time, right? I know what is going to convey this horse for sale message. I want to get to horse for sale as much as I can. And I'm not testing 50 different things against it to find.
All right, thanks.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Let's go, Dr. Saida.
Hey, Joe. Hey, Dean.
Hey.
They're back. They're back.
We're back.
Well, first of all, I just want to say that thank you for the Genius Network, because of the very small amount of time that we've spent. I think it was since October. We've taken coaching from 4 to 5 figures to 6 to 7 figures in yearly contracts. So the question, I guess, that I would have is how to actually speak about sex and relationships where that's typically censored as porn legally, even though there's nothing pornographic about it. Everything's done with clothes on, etc. But education in this arena in general does not get distinguished from performance.
God, the first thing that comes to mind is interesting as this sounds, and you can do this so much easier than with AI. But back in the day when there was like niche experts in particular categories and they wanted to do a speech, one of the things that I would suggest to people, which was taught to me by a friend that taught public speaking, when you go in and try to help someone in a particular category, remember the dummies books? There were like, sex for dummies. There's like gardening for dummies, insurance for dummies. I had a friend, unfortunately passed away, but he had written some of the Idiot's Guides and the Dummies Guides to so-and-so. And what their skill is knowing how to lay out and structure expertise, a table of contents. And I would say if you have a particular expertise in insurance, as an example, go get Insurance for Dummies, look at the table of contents, then don't even read the book, just look at the table of contents and then fill out your subject matter expertise because they've already laid it out for you. Well, you could go to any sort of AI system and say, give me the table of contents. And what you just asked me, this is where I would actually have a dialogue in like Claude or Grok. And I would say, okay, what are, in the same way that we want to make sure that we're never making claims, they are becoming so strict on testimonial claims and things because of a lot of con artists that are out there. And we actually use AI for that. But to your point, I mean, you obviously want to be tantalizing. What I would suggest is, I don't know, I'm sure you can find it online, but I would go to like a used bookstore that sells old magazines, and I would pick up every past issue of Cosmopolitan and what are the ones that do the upper left-hand magazine bullet? And Brian Kurtz, what the hell were those called? It was the Seven Sisters magazine. Well, no, just the bullets on the magazine that would. Who said what? Cover lines. Yeah, well, yeah, the cover lines, but there's a freaking term for it. I said it. Fascinations is what Marty Edelston would call them. So when you look at a magazine cover, they would try. Now, the reason I say Cosmopolitan, the upper left-hand bullet was always about sex. They tested thousands of different variations to hook people standing in line at a grocery store or a drugstore to hook them with a tantalizing thing. And so they have already written everything by a factor of 1,000 times that you guys would ever need. I would go and find the most compelling things at Cosmopolitan. I would also, in your category, I would look at Vogue and all the different magazines that use that as a hook, and I would go and find one of the writers there that was one of the copywriters for the magazine. They will give you a plethora of stuff. And then if you could find the, E. Julius Hadelman, how do you pronounce his name?
Yeah, the first 100 million.
Yeah, my first 100 million. He's these 100 million copies of books that were 5 cents each. They're these little blue books back in the early 1900s. And they would be the same book, but all they would change is the headline. And he tracked how many books they sold just by changing the headline of the book. And there's whole categories of sex and relationships. And this was tested over 100 years ago. That book alone would be actually extraordinarily valuable to almost everyone here in the room because it covers, I mean, they sold 100 million books at 5 cents each. And so, and they did it all through testing headlines on every category under the sun. But sex and love and weight loss and making money, these are all big giant categories that exist. So it's already out there. It's just a matter of looking at it. And I would also look at the top selling books on sex and relationships that exist. And that's what I would do. I hope that helps.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's absolutely amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Dean, hey, Will Smith, Raleigh, North Carolina. I hope you're doing well. This is either going to be a good question or you're going to be like, this guy's clueless. When you know your target audience and you know they're a right fit client, platinum level prospect, you can curate the leads, you know why you want to be their hero, how you can help them. It's about finding people where they are a lot of times. I guess my question is, when you have all that confidence and all that data, how do you know how to get the inertia started with next steps to reach out? Because in today's world, there's, LinkedIn messages drive me crazy, emails, direct mail, seminars, webinars, all this different stuff. So how do you help people filter through that actionable next step with inertia?
This is great, and this is what you're describing is something where we make a distinction between, do you have visible prospects or invisible prospects? And so if you're talking about you can get a list of them and you can identify who they are, you have visible prospects. So for instance, if you're trying to attract chiropractors, you can get a list of chiropractors and you know who they are. If you are a chiropractor, you have invisible prospects, meaning you can't get a list of people who twisted their back this morning. So you have to lead generate to pull them out, right? So in any time where you have visible prospects and they haven't leaned forward to start the conversation, it's awkward. How do you go from a standing start to like conveying your entire message, all the things that you can do for people? And so part of it is taking the approach of first job is that they know that you exist, right? That's the first thing, because we always say, in order for somebody to do business with you, they have to get to know you, like you, trust you. And most times people read all of those as one destination: know you, like you, trust you. And that doesn't properly revere the giant leap from not knowing you to knowing you. So I would say if you take 100 of those prospects, for instance, and start to say, how many of them know that you exist? That's the first step of it, right? And if you can do it in a way that isn't immediately like, hey, let me pitch you my stuff, or let me tell you what we do. And, but there's many different ways. I'll tell you what's very interesting is I get pitched all the time for people saying, hey, I just found your podcast and it's really great, and I think I would be a good guest for your podcast. Like they're trying to put themselves on my podcast. And for every 10 of those, I may get one or less than that of people saying, hey, I'd like to get you on my podcast and shall spread you out to my audience, right? Is thinking from the perspective of what I was saying with Joe, is what's in it for them? What can you do that would be a great outcome for them? If you think about starting the conversation with that, that's a great thing. And it takes some real engineering. Like it takes thinking to go to the approach of what does this guy care about that is ultimately going to lead them to caring about what I can do for them. How can I start a conversation with something that they want to talk about? I always use the Music Man as an example, right? That it's the guy sells band uniforms, but he starts the conversation of, we got trouble in River City. And that starts with T and that rhymes with P and that stands for pool. And so he goes in and gets everybody rallying around. We got to get this bad influence of the pool hall out of our teams. And how we can do that is we need a boys band. And now that they have their idea that they need a boys band, they're going to need band uniforms. But you don't go and start the conversation with, hey, I'm Tom from Tom's Band Uniforms. It sounds like you're trying to, what's in it for you? That's all those things. Just wanted to introduce myself. And, all of that stuff, nobody cares what you want. That we're 100% self-absorbed. And that's comforting and reliable. That's the most reliable thing that if you can stack your marketing strategy to lean into the fact that people are 100% of the time focused on their own self-interest. And the more you can align with that, the easier your marketing job's going to be.
Cool.
That's
All right.
receiving doc thinking, right?
Does that help?
Yeah.
All right. So Haley, online. We'll
Hi,
just do
thanks, Joe. Thanks, Dean. I appreciate it. So my question, I am starting to create my dream offer, and I'm a communication trainer. I work in this world of empathy, so soft skills. So I can't, what's challenging to me is I don't have like a concrete outcome. I can't 10x your business, lose 10 pounds, save your marriage. How do you craft a dream offer when there's kind of a squishy outcome? More connection, more trust, more collaboration, but I'm not sure if that's really clear enough to say like, oh, that's the dream outcome for someone.
Yeah. So that what though? That's part of the thing when you look at it, that are you just like rearranging the deck chairs, or are you making the boat go faster? What is it that you can attach your product or service to that's going to fundamentally improve the outcome that they're getting? Like, what's important to them? Why do they want to know these soft skills? Because that's going to be useful in this outcome.
Can I speak to that for a minute, Dean, too? Because I was talking to Tommy Mello, who has a $200 million a year company in the service business, and then Peter, I think we were talking about this the other day, is that with AI, soft skills, we believe, are going to become more important than hard skills. Because with AI, you can now produce all kinds of things, but the ability to actually have empathy, or to listen, or to communicate, or to feel comfortable, and to help someone with anxiety, and just have friendships. I mean, one of the greatest forms of human suffering in the world right now, which is just going to get worse and worse and worse, is loneliness. We live in a world of a lot of, we're surrounded by people that we're more connected electronically than ever before in human history, but we're more disconnected as humans. And that's all, provable through suicides and addiction and, just where people are at. And, surveys done on, friendships from, 30 years ago versus today. So soft skills, so to go back to what you're saying, Dean, it's being able to articulate what is the benefit of having that soft skill. That's in speaking to that. And oftentimes the people that are learning from you and benefiting from it is having them explain and validate what you helping them is doing for them. I mean, I'm an idiot when it comes to some of the things that my clients have already given me that I don't even market, even though I can sit here and tell people to do that. I utilize it, but nowhere near. I mean, there is so much. Some of the best marketing that we will ever create, it will not be done through AI. It will not be done through a copywriter. It will be done through just capturing the value that our clients and our customers and our patients have shared with us of how doing business with us has benefited them, and simply asking them. And so two things. One, ask the people that have bought things from you why they did and what it did for them. And more importantly, what hardly anyone will ever do, because it's more difficult to do, is to ask the people that haven't bought from you why they didn't buy, and sincerely say, what could I have said or explained in a way? What was it that drove you off? What was it that just did not capture? And tell them up front that this is not a veiled sales pitch. I sincerely want to know. As a matter of fact, I'll even give you something for free if you could just answer honestly. Don't answer because you are trying to be nice to me. Just like literally tell me what I could have said or done that would have gotten you to do business with me. And just if you try that with 10 or 20 people that didn't buy from you, even though they had an opportunity, it's fascinating what you will get back. It's never what we think it's going to be in most cases.
Thank you both very much.
Yeah, does that help?
Yeah, it does help. I appreciate it.
Cool. And by the way, dialogue with AI on this, and ask the same question, and do it on my clone. Have you ever tried my clone?
No, not yet, but okay. I'm curious to now.
Yeah, so it's askjoepolish.com, and just ask it to help you draft a business plan, a marketing message. I've loaded over 1,000 videos into that. It's actually, in many cases, more useful than I can be just sitting here, because it doesn't go on tangents. Whereas I'm fucking ADD and crazy, but my clone is more disciplined than I am as a human. It's loaded. All my books have been uploaded into it, and currently it's free. It's just askjoepolish.com, and I have people writing business plans and everything with my clone, and it could access almost all the podcasts, everything.
That's amazing. Thank you. Appreciate you for sharing that resource also for free. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. You want to, okay.
Okay, I'm Sam Hosseini. I'm in the business of getting people out of pain, or optimizing their sexual health. So It's not, I'm having a hard time figuring out how to get my messaging across so it actually is compelling, because I feel like a lot of times people don't really take action until it's like too late. And I want to, how do I position myself like the party business where, you know, I can create a compelling offer, a compelling message to get people to come in the same way I came to Genius, because I got in front of the messaging and I was pretty much sold before I even got on that webinar. How do I position myself in my industry that it's already the patient, when I get in front of the patient, when they get into my office, they already know they want to do business with me.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll talk about that and try to figure out the best way to do it. With the caveat that I will say, and you probably already know this, it's a lot easier to sell a cure than it is a prevention.
I was just going to say that.
Most people are not looking for an alarm system before their house is burglarized. They start looking at one afterwards, right? And so, man, it's human nature is you can give them, you know, all kinds of ways. Look at the way people eat. Look at the way people live. You know, they're oblivious to the negative consequences of their lifestyle and their decisions until something blows up. I guess, Dean, I would let you speak to the compellingness of it. What I would first say is everyone that you've helped that has had a health transformation, had improved in some area, is to ask them what were the benefits what would your life look like had you come to me, you know, 2 years prior before you had this, you know, health event that happened. You know, have them help you compile that, you know, because you can create a lot of compellingness with that. But at the end of the, and I'll say it this way. So the late Dave Kekich, who wrote Kekich Credos, I remember he spoke to a huge event about health, and he told me, he's like, Joe, he's like, and this is a guy who spent half his life in a wheelchair and then devoted his life to longevity before the term longevity was like even like a biohacking thing. And he said, he goes, he wrote a couple of books on health, and he said, humanity's very depressing. He goes, I'm in this big auditorium, there's 3,000 people, I think it was, and he goes, and I start talking about to lift weights for strength training and for, you know, bone density. You want to do cardio for your circulatory system and for your heart. And I'm sharing, you know, all these elements of things to improve your health. And he goes, and the audience, you know, is receptive to it. Then I talk about how we're going to have like a stem cell skin cream, and it's going to make you look, you know, 20 years younger. And another product that's going to grow back your hair. And then, like, the whole audience goes apeshit over this. He's like, it's just people care more about vanity than they care about being healthy. He goes, it's just like, it's so weird. He goes, and I'm like, yeah. I go, what do you do? You know, people would rather look better than feel better in some cases. But that doesn't mean you can't attract them and compel them, which is the right thing to do. Because if we had a model, you know, we don't have health care in this world. We have sick care. It's not even health care. It's health carelessness is the majority of what health care is. But what would you say, Dean?
Well, you know, it's funny because I see the same thing in Stop Your Divorce, that it would have been better for people to start intervening and in their relationship before it got to the point of them, their spouse saying they want a divorce, but they have no interest in improving the relationship until the moment that their spouse says, that's it, I want a divorce, the ice cracks, they're now in the cold water, and they would do anything to get back up to normal. It immediately jumps to the top of their to-do list, right? So the interesting thing is when you say the words that they're interested in, stop your divorce, are compelling words. And the reality of that was that in order for people to get to stop their divorce, they had to get to a point where they don't need to stop their divorce. So they get over, so no matter what ever happens, they're going to be fine whether the divorce is stopped or whether it's not. And often in the process of getting to the point where they don't need the marriage to you know, cure them or whatever, that they are okay, and they're happy. They realize this isn't the right marriage for me, and they're happy that the marriage is going on. And that's what people ultimately want, right? So if you can attach to something, meet people where they are and take them where they need to be, right? Like, so offer people, when we talk about the party rental, the wedding venue, we know that 3 steps from now, we're going to need to pick a party company, party rental company, right? Always, if you can meet people where they are, use the words that they're already looking for, and then move them adjacently to whatever is the right path for them.
You know, this is a perfect setup because I always will ask people, you know, do you know what the number 1 cause of divorce is? And do you know? Do you know, Sam? Number 1 cause of divorce? Marriage. And so if you want people to stop their divorce, easy. If you were selling prevention, you'd be like, don't get married. And you won't have anything, you know. Now, it's a joke, of course, but in a lot of ways, it's actually, you know, people get into stuff, right? And then they need to get out of stuff. And usually, pain selling is more effective than benefit selling. People will do more to get out of pain. You know, the Sandler sales system was all predicated on, you know, pain selling. And so, you know, there's a lot to be said. One idea I have for you, though, is you actually had a introductory, like a get out of jail card, where you gamify it. So everyone that had a health transformation and improved as a result of you say, you know, look, we all have friends that if they would have found out that you care about, that if they would have done some preventative things beforehand, or if they would have done what you did, okay, you use a little bit of Cialdini belonging, liking, linking, reciprocity, all mixed in, Joe Sugarman sort of trigger stuff, where you basically create invitation cards that have a real value, where they can give out 2 of them as a client of yours that they could share with 2 of their very best relationships. So you don't make it unlimited, it's exclusive, and you actually have your clients become the ones that introduce other people to you, because you're probably already getting most of your business through referrals anyway.
I do that already.
Well, how do you do it?
Referral cards, I ask them, hey, if you've had a great experience, these are referral cards. They have 2 weeks. If you know somebody that can use these services that I provide, just go ahead and send them my way, and their first visit will be complimentary.
Perfect. So as much as you can make that compelling, that is the way to continue to expand what you're doing, and you do it through the existing happy people, and you try different
email, I guess. That's fine.
Yeah, so you do different variations of that. So does that help?
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank
awesome.
you.
So we've got 7 minutes left, and we have to be wrapped. Go ahead, Barry.
Dean, can you see us? Okay, I have a quick question for you.
So Dean was muted because I think Gina muted everybody, but go ahead.
I built a business in 1982 with a wirehouse with fixed income bonds. I sent out 2,000 mass mailers every week for 5 years. I led the country for 3 straight years nationally with new accounts. Does direct mail still work now?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's my
I was wondering,
thing.
because it was so simple to do. At that time, it was 35 cents a mailer. It was, it had a budget. Now it's what, 60, 70 cents to send? I was just thinking,
73 cents to do
is it 73?
First class. Unless you buy it on stamps.com, then it's a little less.
It still works, the direct mail. The consistency was amazing. I was getting a 0.5 to 1% response. They were sending back, they wanted we were all informational. It's on a fixed income, like on a government bond or a municipal bond.
I love it.
I was just curious, would that still work now?
Visible prospects. Especially if you have visible prospects where you can mail to exactly the people. We do things, so with financial advisors, we'll mail to people who are 61 and a half on their way to turning 62, and we'll offer the Social Security benefits guide for people who have, we target very specific things. Like we get people who are 61 and are homeowners living in $1 million plus home with $2 to $3 million investable assets, and you're going to a very, very high probability.
So what does it
list.
cost? What's a stamp is now how much?
Well, a first class stamp is 73
Not first,
cents.
but it would be bulk rate.
Oh yeah, that's probably, I don't know.
I never
60s.
do. We don't do bulk rate. We'll do it. The most valuable thing is I'll do postcards as a great way to do that. So, including the list, we can do those for just over $1 for a good size postcard to your ideal audience.
Well, here's what I would say too. So Randy Brill, with just those of you that are watching online, if you need help with all kinds of cool design, just call Randy RANDI.com. She's really good at this stuff. And then we can go to Brian Kurtz here in a moment. We may run over because we're supposed to officially end in 4 minutes, but
I know I have to run right at 5. So
do you? Okay. So,
yeah,
but
I do.
Here's what I would say though. You want to do, it's like a Gary Halbert thing. People of America sort their mail out over a wastebasket, and it goes to 2 piles. There's the A pile, which is everything that's personal or appears personal, and then the B pile, which is everything that is junk or appears like junk. And this would be worldwide, not just America. But you want to get everything to look personal if you're sending out a letter. But if you're doing a postcard, I always like starting with first class, and then if that works, then you can test bulk, or you can you can test different variations and stuff. But give it the highest possibility of success right from the get-go, and test it, because I mean, how much would it actually cost for you to test it? Like nothing, right? And so you definitely do that. So Brian, a guy who's mailed out how many letters in your life, and then we'll come back to Randy.
I licked every stamp too. It was like, but it's over 1 billion. I calculated it. Dean already spoke to that. You can use postcards, you can use compiled lists, you can target. But I think the thing that a lot of marketers today miss is the use of direct mail on the back end. And so direct mail to your existing customers, to your VIPs, the kind of thing that Randy does, but more than that, you can do, I think to answer your question, Barry, I think the day of like prospecting in direct mail, the way we did it in the olden days, it's a tough business now because people don't have really good response lists, and they're all in databases that you can't get individual lists. So you can do it, but I always say it's like making sushi. You can do it, but I wouldn't recommend it. Let the experts do it. But I think, and then somebody always says, I make sushi, right? Who makes sushi here? Yeah, of course.
No, wait. Just so I understand what you're saying, you're not suggesting that people not do direct mail.
No. Yeah. So direct mail is not dead, and it's actually, mailboxes are emptier right now. The least crowded inbox is the one at the end of your driveway. So, but you have to still be exciting in there. Dean can write a kick-ass postcard. I don't recommend postcards to the people that I work with because they won't do it with the precision that Dean could do it. So again, that's the part of it that you might want an expert helping you in some way, because it's not today. It's a more treacherous environment, but it's definitely accessible. And as far as on the back end of creating 3-dimensional, and that kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, lumpy mail, and it's not just lumpy mail. You can do, if you have 15 of your top clients and you want to, get them to upgrade to the 25,000, you're sending them in some way to be able to send them a book, to send them something in a Federal Express envelope. So not even I'll go beyond first class mail. You already have an invested customer that might have paid you thousands of dollars already. So use that money and go after them. And I'll repeat what you said earlier. Going after an existing customer is so much easier than going after a new one. Now the new customers are always the lifeblood of a business. But man, I think people are the marketers that I deal with online. I think they, the cold prospecting and cold traffic. That's sexy, right? But I like non-sexy marketing. I like going to the best customers with the best offers and just get more from the people that love you already. And that doesn't mean you don't prospect, and you guys have covered that very well today. And but the answer is direct mail is not dead. There's a lot of different types of direct mail, and there's different situations for different, but it's
thank you. Let me say that for sake of time, I do want to give Dre Redfern an opportunity to say something because he's a real expert, and he earlier today was on for a while, and I want to get his perspective on how he would add to this conversation we've already had. I also want to point out that if you actually read Breakthrough DNA, which you can download on I Love Marketing, and just the conversation today, you will know more about real marketing than 99% of every business owner in the world. They don't have these sort of conversations. So when Brian was like, go to expert, we just had an expert conversation, right? There's a lot to what you can take away from this. I mean, it's simply about connecting with people in a way that compels them to buy, identify who you want to be a hero to, make sure that you're thinking about what's in it for them, not what's in it for you. That's one of the dangers of like brand building is people are sending out messaging that's talking about how great they are, and no one really gives a shit about how great you are until they can tie it into how that actually benefits them. And so if you speak to that, Randy, did you want to say anything?
The thing to remember, Barry, first of all, you are the consummate note writer. Remember what people... Taking care, as Brian says on the back end, taking care, as Brian says on the back end, those are the people who love us. And one of the things we were talking about this morning with Nicole is how many do you need? You need the right people in the right way, and take care of them. Say thank you. That's why people want to do the boxes. And we talk all the time about, yes, first class is lovely, but oh my darling, are you going to not open a FedEx box? Of course you are. And then put the right thing in that's about them. Don't put your logo on it. Put a message about them, something Randy Brill, the person that you want to take care of, I'm going to be proud to carry it. It's going to make me part of the cool kids. That's where it comes in, and it's personal. You'll be the best note writer there is.
And by the way, Barry already does this. He teaches young people to do handwritten letters. He has a freaking metal letterhead. He's got a wax stamp on the back. It's very classy and it's very cool. And I mean, I don't throw away the stuff that you send me because it's freaking awesome. And so, all right, so Dre, you've sat through this whole thing. How would you bring this to a close for everyone? And I know we've gone a little over, and we're recording this live, but this is the first time we've actually done a live one with a live audience and also an online audience, so which is cool. And so those of you that are listening to this on our podcast or watching it on YouTube, we're going to do this on a regular basis. So
I think that I'll just echo really quick what Brian said. I am a millennial. I am 36 years old. I should hate direct mail. Everything should be digital. But Brian and I have jammed on this many, many times. I love direct mail. It's certainly not dead. People's email inboxes are more flooded now than ever. Like I looked as he was talking about this, I have 164,000 unread emails right now. Like that's kind of a lot. My mailbox is empty. No one sends me fun stuff. The opportunity, like just in general, people's email inboxes are full, their mailboxes are empty. And so I just want to like restate that it sounds like a BHAG, like a big, hairy, audacious goal to go do something direct mail wise. But in general, it could be a smaller sample size. You can do a lot with it. And me being kind of the marketing data nerd with these things, like I love sending video boxes in the mail that have the IoT technology, like the Internet of Things. So the moment they open that package, the video starts playing. The moment that video starts playing in that direct mail package, like, hey, Brian, Dre Redford here. I wanted to send this to you because yada, yada, yada. You can personalize it, which I love personalization. And then I know the moment that Brian opens it, I can know exactly how many minutes and seconds he watched. It goes back to my Google Data Studio so I can see everything. So you can marry online and offline things. So there's so many things like that. It is more expensive to do things like that. I wouldn't start there. But there's just like the world is your oyster in so many different capacities. If you just think outside the box, like we talked about earlier with using AI to show up first and then retarget, different than how most people have done it. Using direct mail and all of those sorts of things. So I think in this day and age now, and Joe sort of talked about this, so I'll sort of like try and close that loop as well, is what's old is new again. And so like we're seeing things like PDFs and ebooks that are selling again, which is freaking crazy for me as a marketer. And direct mail never really died, but it's certainly not dead now. And so by doing some of the things like the live podcast that Joe's doing things like this, just finding unique ways to just position your business or your services or products just slightly different could be a massive unfair advantage. But you just got to sometimes take a step back and, in order to do that. So that's sort of how I tie some of those things at least off. And I guess that's probably where I'd leave it, at least for now, Joe.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, if we could throw. See, Brian doesn't care if we're late already.
No, I don't care.
He's like the honey badger. He doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, I don't give a shit. But Dre inspired me. But a couple of other things that people don't realize. If you're an online marketer all the time, first of all, it's bad to be the most dangerous number in business is 1, and if your 1 is online, that's bad. And so every person that's bought from you with a credit card, you have their postal address. So and the fact is that a direct mail is an opt-out medium, not an opt-in medium, and so you have to with email you have to double opt-in or at least opt-in, and then you can opt, and then you'll get eliminated only if you opt out after you opt-in. Direct mail, you can mail them until they opt out. Now, we have to be careful because if you're mailing in bigger quantities, there are suppression files of change of address files from the Postal Service are people who don't want mail. Like there are people, and you can't mail them because they've already opted out. But it's an opt-out medium at the outset. So they're in until they're out, I guess is what I'm saying. And so that's a unfair advantage too, to some degree.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so have you found this useful? All right, thank you. So thank you, Dre. And so for those of you that are watching online, we will notify you as long as you're a subscriber to I Love Marketing, which you can subscribe wherever you listen to downloads, be it on Apple or on Spotify or YouTube or wherever, then you'll be notified of the next one. And if you have not read Breakthrough DNA, go and download it at ilovemarketing.com, and we'll see you next time. So thank you.